If you clicked on this video, chances are you've been playing Pokemon games for years, just like me. And let's be honest, every new game leaves us with the same question. When will the franchise finally live up to its full potential? In my previous video, I showed you how something as simple as a better pose can make a Pokemon feel more alive and more ready to battle. A small change, but one that completely shifts the atmosphere of the game. But this time, we're going way further. What if animations were the key? What if what I'm going to show you is a glimpse of what Pokemon's future should look like? Just how bright could the future of Pokemon actually be? But before we jump into the core of it, let's rewind to where it all began. At the very beginning, when Generation 1 was created, there were no natures, no shinies, no animations. Then came Gen 3, adding natures and personalities that gave Pokemon their own identity. By Gen 5, they finally felt alive thanks to fluid 2D animations. But since the move to 3D, we've gone backwards. Lifeless animations, a visual and emotional downgrade. The Mega Evolutions brought excitement, but were scrapped. And now, with each new generation, we just get a new gimmick, Gigantamax, Terastallization, flashy, but without any lasting impact. Pokemon started simple, then it evolved into something deep and meaningful. But today, it's stuck. Stuck in its concept and in its potential. Ever since Pokemon entered the 3D era, we've seen the same recycled animations and reused models over and over again. Not much has changed since the days of Pokemon X and Y's. The formula stayed the same: a rival, an evil team, the Pokemon League, and a new feature to unlock a Pokemon's power. Mega Evolution, Gigantamax, Terastallization, and that's about it. So much for innovation. The biggest shakeup we've had was the open world in Scarlet and Violet. And I can already hear some of you saying, but that's the essence of Pokemon. And honestly, you're right. But what I'm suggesting is simple. Keep that core recipe we all love, just bring something new on top of it. No need to change everything, just make it grow. Are you still with me? Perfect. Let's get into it. Recently, we explored how a strong pose can bring more emotion and visual impact to our favorite Pokemon. Some of you loved my reworked Exploud with its mouth wide open, or Steelix looking way more menacing than in its original animation. But there's one mechanic in Pokemon that's been completely overlooked: natures. There are 26 different natures in the games. Sure, they affect stats, which is great for competitive battles, but visually, nothing changes, and that's a huge missed opportunity, and I will explain you why. Can you imagine if every nature came with its own idle animation? Your Lucario, for example, wouldn't just be a Lucario. It would be a timid Lucario who is shy and hesitant. It would be a jolly Scolipede, cheerful to be by your side. Suddenly, your Pokemon feels unique. It feels alive, and you feel connected to it. This is exactly what modern Pokemon games are missing: life. And honestly, who wouldn't love this idea? It makes perfect sense in the world of Pokemon. These creatures are emotional beings just like us. Adding personality to match their nature would make the world feel deeper, more immersive, and way more personal. You wouldn't just train a Pokemon, you'd bond with it. But maybe, just maybe, Game Freak or the Pokemon Company already thought about expanding them and just couldn't make it work? Let's be real about it for a second. There are 25 natures, which means if each one had its own idle animation, we'd need 25 unique animations per Pokemon. And with Generation 10 on the horizon, we're getting close to 1,200 Pokemon in total. That would be 30,000 animations. Yeah, that's a lot. But with a solid team of 3D animators, it's not impossible. There's another issue though. In competitive battles, being able to visually recognize a Pokemon's nature could reveal stats boosts, and that is not ideal. So maybe this whole idea just isn't doable?
Wrong.
These problems are real indeed, but so are the solutions. Yes, 30,000 animations is a huge number, but after digging into the nature system, I realized something important. In fact, many natures are very close in meaning. Take relaxed and calm, for example. They're different, but emotionally similar. Someone calm is usually relaxed and vice versa. So, what if we grouped similar natures together into broader categories? Well, that's exactly what I did, and here's how I broke them down. So at first I paired gentle and naive. We can easily imagine a bit carefree Pokemon with them. And we also have modest and mild that would be very similar but more expressive in their animations. Next we have jolly and quirky, which would be perfect for a very playful Pokemon. On the opposite, quiet, timid, and bashful for a discreet and reserved one. The next group is brave, bold, and hardy for a Pokemon with a very confident stance. In contrast, we have lonely, lax, and docile that can describe a Pokemon with no enthusiasm. Coming up, we have rash, adamant, and hasty, represented by a fierce and determined stance. On the other side, careful, impish, and serious for a Pokemon on the defensive. And for the last category, we have sassy and naughty for very arrogant Pokemon, with, in contrast, relax and calm, which are pretty self-explanatory. Now that we've reduced the 25 natures down to 10 categories, we'd only need about 13,000 animations instead of 30,000 to cover all 1,200 Pokemon. That's a huge improvement, much more manageable for animators, and for players like you and me, it doesn't change the gameplay experience at all. But now you might still be thinking, but in competitive battles, wouldn't this let people figure out a Pokemon's nature and its stat boosts? Well, with the natures grouped, it's already harder to guess, but yeah, you're right. If you see a timid or quiet animation on a Charizard, you'd probably assume it's timid for the speed boost rather than quiet, which reduces speed. So here's what I suggest. The first solution, and the one I like the less, is letting player toggle the feature off during online battles. If it's off, all Pokemon use a default animation. This way, there's no risk of revealing stat changes. Simple and super effective, but that also means we lose the whole point of the system in competitive play, and that kind of sucks. So I found a better solution for our problem. Keep the feature on, but once the battle starts, the animations are randomized. This way your timid Charizard might display the animation for, say, careful or impish, which is completely unrelated. And you know what? Even better, make the randomized animation visible only to the opponent. That way, you see the nature you picked for your Pokemon, but your opponent sees something completely different. No confusion, no reveals, and full immersion. Now, I think I've shown you there are not actual problems to implement this feature in a future Pokemon game. Game Freak, we count on you. If this kind of mechanic ever becomes real, it wouldn't just be a nice addition to Pokemon. It would be exactly what the series needs to bring the magic back. In addition to this, Game Freak has always tried to create emotion in their video games. Pokemon Amy, Camping, Picnic, but they never managed to meet our expectations. A world that feels alive. Because that's what Pokemon has always been about, connection. The bond between trainers and their Pokemon. And when that day finally comes, when the games stop feeling static and start feeling alive again, that's the day the perfect Pokemon game will finally be born.